The village of Dravo huddled at the edge of the Whispering Woods. Small, nestled amongst hills, Dravo was a place of old stories and older fears. The forest loomed, dark, deep. It pressed close to the village, a constant presence. The villagers spoke of it in hushed tones. They told tales of those who ventured in and were never seen again. They whispered of voices that called from the shadows. The Whispering Woods were more than just trees. They were a legend, a warning. They were a place where the real and the unreal blurred, a place of mystery, a place of fear. Ivan scoffed at the stories. He was young, he was strong, he believed in what he could see, what he could touch. He would spend a night in the Whispering Woods. He would return by morning. The air grew cold as Ivan entered the forest. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy. Shadows stretched, long and gnarled, like grasping claws. The forest floor was soft underfoot. A carpet of decaying leaves muffled his footsteps. The scent of damp earth and pine needles filled the air. Ivan walked with purpose. He told himself he wasn't afraid. He wasn't superstitious like the villagers. He would find a good spot to make camp. He would build a fire. He would spend the night. He would prove them all wrong. As the light began to fade, the forest came alive. The trees creaked and groaned in the wind. Small animals scurried through the undergrowth. And then Ivan heard it. A whisper, faint, almost indistinguishable. His name. He stopped, listening intently. Silence. He dismissed it. The wind, just the wind. He walked on, deeper into the woods. The whispers returned. Louder now, closer. They seemed to come from all around him, calling his name, beckoning him forward. His pace quickened. He wanted to get away from the voices. He wanted to find his clearing. He wanted to build his fire. Section 5. The Figure in the Shadows. He stumbled through the trees, his fear growing with each whisper. He was lost. He had been walking for hours, it seemed. The whispers were relentless now, a chorus of voices urging him onward. And then he saw it, a flicker of movement in the distance, a shadow darker than the surrounding darkness. He stopped, his heart pounding in his chest. He stared into the darkness, trying to make out the shape. It was tall, thin, almost skeletal, and it was moving towards him, slowly, deliberately. The whispers grew louder. They seemed to emanate from the figure itself. Section 6. Face to face. Ivan stood frozen, his breath catching in his throat. The figure drew closer, its form becoming clearer in the fading light. It was humanoid, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its fingers too thin, ending in claws. Its face was hidden in shadow, but Ivan could sense its eyes upon him. A cold dread washed over him. The whispers intensified, swirling around him like a vortex of fear. He tried to speak, to cry out, but no sound escaped his lips. He was paralyzed, trapped in the grip of terror. Section 7. Flight through the forest. Something within him snapped. The paralysis broke. He turned and ran. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to get away. The whispers followed him, urging him on, mocking his fear. He could hear the figure behind him, its footsteps heavy and slow, yet somehow gaining on him. He dodged between trees, his lungs burning, his legs screaming for respite. Thorns tore at his clothes, branches whipped at his face, but he didn't slow down. He couldn't slow down. The figure was getting closer. Section 8. The Return. He burst from the tree line, stumbling onto the familiar path that led to the village. The first rays of dawn were breaking over the horizon, casting a pale light on the world. He didn't stop running until he reached the first houses of Dravo. He collapsed in the village square, gasping for breath, his body racked with sobs. The villagers gathered around him, their faces etched with concern and a strange sense of vindication. He had returned, yes, but he had been changed by the experience. Section 9. A Changed Man. Gone was the cocky young man who had so confidently ventured into the woods. In his place was a haunted figure, his eyes filled with a terror he could not speak. He tried to tell them what he had seen, what he had heard, but the words wouldn't come. How could he explain the unexplainable? How could he describe the horror that lay at the heart of the Whispering Woods? He was never the same. The whispers followed him, even in the safety of the village. He could feel the eyes of the figure upon him, watching, waiting. He was a prisoner in his own mind, tormented by the memory of that night. Section 10. The Woods Remain. The villagers took pity on him. They cared for him, but they also feared him. He was a living reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond their doorstep, a symbol of the power of the Whispering Woods. And so the woods remained, a place of mystery and fear, a place where the whispers echoed through the trees and the dark figure waited in the shadows, a place where Ivan had faced his fears and emerged forever changed, a place that would forever haunt his dreams.